Hi guys, welcome back to another video, or your first video here, I don't know. Welcome if you're new here, welcome either way. This is going to be my summer book haul and unhaul. I only have a very few books to show you in terms of the books I'll be unhauling, so I'm not doing much better in terms of my plan of unhauling more books than I haul, or at least having that equal, so that'll have to be something that I work on. But first of all, I am going to talk about two books that were featured in my April Closet Unhaul challenge. I think that this was a video concept that I saw on BooksandLala's channel, and I think that I'm going to have to change the forward somewhat because of how much I mood read. But there were two books in there that I decided to unhaul from that challenge. The first one being 6 Characters in Search of an Author by Luigi Pirandello. So this is a collection of 3 plays, 6 Characters in Search of an Author, Henry the Fourth, and So It Is If You Think So. So I don't really know why exactly this was still on my shelves, but I read the first play with a group of friends because I was told it had a lot of literary acclaim. I hadn't heard of it before, and we read it and none of us really liked it at all. The concept was really interesting. It was about a director putting on a play, and these 6 characters show up and demand to be able to tell their own story, but really wasn't executed in a way that I enjoyed. So I don't know why I kept it being like, oh yeah, maybe I'll read the other 2. I mean, clearly this author just isn't for me. So bye-bye. The next one I'm a bit more sad to see leave, and that is Boy Queen by George Lester. So I'm sure this book is excellent. However, I would class this as lower YA or younger YA, and it just read really young, and so I didn't really see it working for me. I'm so glad that diverse books like this exist for our young people, but this just wasn't going to work for me. This is about a young boy who is really struggling in life and really discovers himself through discovering drag. So this will be leaving my shelves. Next, I have a little category of something that I acquired, read, and am now unhauling over the summer, and that is a book called Merry Christmas, Max. I got given access to a couple of boxes of books that a friend was getting rid of. This was in one of them, and I occasionally will pick up kids' books to see what I would be okay recommending in terms of my friends and family who have young children. This was very cute. There's literally no words in it whatsoever. It's just pictures that tell a story. And it was very sweet. So this counts as a read and acquired, but I don't feel the need to keep it. My next category is books that I'm replacing. So this is a book that I really love. It's No One Is Too Small to Make a Difference by Greta Thunberg. I think that she is an amazing role model to young people, and there's nothing wrong with this copy. It's perfectly readable. However, I found the hardcover in a charity shop, and it has lots of images from these different places and the protests, etc. So I just prefer this version, so I will be holding on to this one, and I'm sure this one can do some good out in the world. I might as well go through the other books that were in that box of books that I went through. The first one being Women and Power by Mary Read, a manifesto. This is a collection of essays, I believe, all about women and power. I've heard really great things about this, and it wasn't one that I had in the forefront of my mind as, oh my god, I've got to get to that one. But when I saw it, I was like, I'm really happy to own it. I'm excited to give it a go. The next one is Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. So this one is another one of these little black classic editions. It is number 50 for those of you who are interested in collecting these things. I don't foresee myself collecting the full set. I'm just picking up ones of books that I enjoy. As far as I'm aware, this has a lot of poetry about the First World War. Yep, this selection of poems is taken from 3 poets of the First World War: Ivor Gurney, Isaac Rosenberg, and Wilfred Owens. So I'm sure this wouldn't take me long to read, but I'm excited to get into this. And this next one is a bit strange, and that would reflect the reading experience because I have now read it, and that is The Sexual Labyrinth by Alina Reyes. I mean, I would never have picked this up from the name or the cover just on my own, but just the prospect of these friends of mine being given multiple boxes of books from one of their great aunts who's quite a bit older, and having something like this in there, and just the prospect of wondering what she must have thought of this book. And when I read the back, I was just like, I'm so curious, because it essentially follows a woman who is in a sort of circus of magic doorways, and it is a choose your own adventure porno novel. So you get to the end of a chapter and it tells you which door to go through next, or it gives you an option of which door to go through next, and it changes the outcome of the story. And I will tell you more in my wrap up, but this was a ride. Trying to come up with a way of splitting up my stack. So this next pile is all books that I have already read and I decided that I wanted a copy of. So first of all, we have This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. This book and the 2 sequels, Twas the Night Shift Before Christmas and Undoctored, have been doing really well and have been shedding a lot of light on how hard it is for people in the NHS, but also shares some really comedic moments, some heartbreaking moments. It goes through a lot, and it is essentially like it is a selection of diary entries from Adam Kay when he worked in the NHS. So this I read earlier this year, and I saw this in a charity shop, so I wanted a copy. The next one I have is Entangled Life, How Fungi Make Our World, Change Our Minds and Shape Our Futures by Merlin Sheldrake. I read this late last year, I want to say, and I loved it. I think that there is a certain type of person that writes scientific non-fiction in just such a digestible way without dumbing down the information, but also making it really intriguing and interesting and also quite hopeful, which was quite an interesting thing about this. It's split up into a selection of kind of essays with different themes, but also it's part personal account of either being involved with or looking into research while also actively doing research and facts. So it was just a really enjoyable read. Next we have Band Sinister by KJ Charles. They are just such an author for me. I have pretty much loved every single one of their books that I've read. They tend to write really flamboyant and gay historical fiction with a big focus on the hijinks. In this one, we have a brother and sister, and they have neighbours who they don't get on with, but when the sister is injured on his land and can't be moved for medical reasons, they have to move in for a time, and it's about misconceptions, preconceptions, and just the relationships that form in there. So it's so good. Next we have some books that I've read multiple times last year, this year, and that is Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Belinda Blinked. So Belinda Blinked is the porno novel read by the My Dad Wrote a Porno podcast. I love listening to the podcast. The books themselves are not very well written. They're about a woman, Belinda, as she sort of sleeps her way to the top of the pots and pans industry, and they're a lot of fun. So I'm slowly going to be collecting the rest of these. The next one was really cemented as a real comfort read, comfort favourite of last year, and that is How I Stole the Princess's White Knight and Turned Him to Villainy by AJ Sherwood. This book is definitely in that genre of fantasy novels making fun of fantasy tropes and doesn't really take itself too seriously, but it's a really heartwarming story and has some really wonderful messages, has a really great relationship at its core. It follows a white knight who, to the rest of the world, he seems to have the perfect life. He is the protector of the kingdom's most wonderful princess, when in reality she is a horror, and everything that he does is to protect the kingdom from her merciless rulings. And he is trying to do that and is sort of been blocked at every turn. And so the only thing that he can think to do to stop her is to go to the kingdom's most infamous black sorcerer, and he turns out to be nothing like what he expected. And it is about how they form an unlikely friendship and then later relationship. I read this so many times last year, I needed to get a copy. This isn't like my favourite front cover. I don't think it's particularly eye-catching or good, but it was a really enjoyable read for me. It's one of those, like, how did I hear it phrased recently? Like a junk food book, you know, something that's not particularly well crafted, but is just, it really hits the spot sometimes. And next we have a book that I both bought and read earlier this year. I can't quite remember what month it was, but that is Spot the Cock by Jason Murphy, which really is what it says on the tin. It is a series of really busy pictures where there is a small penis hidden in each image, and you go through and you find each one, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a laugh, it brought me a lot of joy, and yeah, I'm going to be keeping this. The next stack I have are books that I read a little bit of or a little bit into this series, but I decided to buy them. The first one being The Complete Tales of Edgar Allan Poe. I've read some of his works, The Telltale Heart being my favourite. I've also read The Raven, and I think possibly one other, but I really love this cover. It's one of the Barnes & Noble exclusive editions of classics. I bought this at a really beautiful, sorry, I'm reflecting at you. I bought this at a really beautiful bookshop when I was on a trip to Penzance, so that holds that memory for me as well. And next we have two books in a series, which is books 2 and 3 of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I don't know if the series as a whole has a like series name, but this one I had already read. This one I have read part of, but I think I would need to restart in order to continue with. But these are the covers that I prefer in this series. A Court of Thorns and Roses is a book about a young girl, Feyre, and she ends up accidentally killing a fairy and has to be taken to where the fairies live to sort of pay off like the debt of that, and the plot moves on from there. So far, book 2 is my favourite in the series, and I'm really excited to get on with the others. Pretty much the rest of the books that I have here are ones that I haven't read yet, so don't really have any way of splitting them up further. First of all, I have the screenplay of Brokeback Mountain. I haven't watched the film, but I have watched the stage version, which I absolutely adored. And I also bought the script of the stage version, so it'd be really interesting to see how this compares to that. I might read them sort of side by side and compare the two. So like I said, it's based on the film. I'm assuming this was also, first of all, based on a book, then turned into a film, then turned into a stage show. So this is about two men who go ranching together on Brokeback Mountain and end up realizing they may be gay and sort of dealing with that. Do I have any scripts? Maybe that's a way to... Yeah. I bought 2 scripts by Mischief Theatre. So we have Grown Ups and Comedy About a Bank Robbery. Both of these shows I have seen on stage. Mischief Theatre are the group that did A Play That Goes Wrong. I've seen it before, but when I went to see it fairly recently, in their merchandise stall, they were selling these 2 scripts. So I'm interested to see what I think of these 2. So I don't really have a segue into any more of these. So the next book is Tales from Beyond the Rainbow, 10 LGBT fairy tales proudly reclaimed, collected and adapted by Pete Geordie Wood. This is a book I bought from a local gift shop attached to a what's it called, like, there's like a witchcraft and folklore museum in town. And from what I remember, the person telling me, this person, Pete, was doing a exhibition in that witchcraft museum, and they were also the author of this. So I'd be really interested to see these. I wonder whether or not it'll be mostly original stories or if all of them will be retellings of existing fairy tales. But I think this will be a nice read for me, but also just something that I'm glad exists in the world for young people growing up with more diverse stories. Next, we have a book from one of the Queer Eye for the Straight Guy people, which is a TV show where 5 queer men improve the life of someone who is struggling, most of whom do other big projects now or have written books. I think all of them have written books, actually. But this one is by Tan France, called Naturally Tan. And yeah, I read Over the Top by Jonathan Van Ness a little while ago and really enjoyed it. So yes, I'll be interested to see more about Tan. Next, we have a book that has been on my to-be-read list for a while, but I just hadn't found a copy, and that is Straight Jacket by Matthew Todd. Really interested to see what he's got to say. I'm assuming this is non-fiction, personal stories, so excited to read that. Oh, this is another one that I forgot to include in an earlier clip about the box of books that I was going through, and that is Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal. I do believe, again, that this is, oh yeah, it says it right here, it's an autobiography by the same, by Jeanette Winterson, same author as Oranges Are Not the Only Fruits. That is another book that's on my to-be-read list, so when I saw this one, I decided to pick it up. I don't know if there's a specific order that you're supposed to read these in, so I'd love your insight if you do know. Next, we have one that I basically saw in Asda for £1, and I was like, why not give it a go? So that is Game On by Matt Cain. I have read a book called by Matt Cain before. I think it was called The Madonna of Bolton. I might be mixing this up because I can't see it on the back, so maybe I'm getting confused. But this is essentially a short gay novel. I really like the fact that the reading agency and Quick Reads are making an effort to have more diverse stories available for this initiative, so wonderful. And finally, I have this book is Anti-Racist by Tiffany Jewell, illustrated by Audrelia Durand. So this one wasn't a book that I planned to pick up. I saw it in a charity shop and I thought I would give it a go. So a lot of it has a lot of illustrations and it's very colourful. So I don't really have much to say about this, but I'm excited to try it out. Right, I'm probably not going to get all of the books in frame, but let's just grab a couple of these for a thumbnail. And there we have it. Those are all the books that I both acquired recently and have decided to get rid of recently. And I'm going to need to do better about reading my own books, and also either buying less or unhauling more in the future. But I will see you in my next video. Bye.